been a minute. I was meant to vlog my sort of like alone time, but quite honestly, I was just having too much fun. Even going to the crystal shop, like I mentioned, it was hard for me to just whip out like my Canon and just kind of start vlogging everything, because I was just so in the moment. The entire, just like the energy of the shop, it was so it was so soothing and blissful that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take a couple of videos, like short excerpts of my phone and a couple of photos, and I'm just gonna enjoy my time. I spent like an hour in there talking to the lady. She was giving me updates on, you know, what to get, like what certain crystals do for your body, how to use certain crystals to harness and to sort of open up certain chakras, which is kind of what I use crystals for. But it's just, you know, everyone uses it for different reasons and some people don't, so that's totally okay. But we are back in the confinements of my house slash room slash personal space with 1, 2, 3, how many? 5 walls. 5? Well, Jesus Christ on it. My God. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Okay. We're back in the room. I really was I was just tired. I've had a long day today and I was like, you know what, maybe I won't vlog, but then I was like, no, I need to be consistent. If I'm not consistent and I don't do this, we are never going to get anywhere in life. And after the zombie apocalypse, I've just decided to give everything a go, and whenever I do give something a go, I want to give it 100%. So I figured if I'm going to do this YouTube thing, I want to go all in, you know, not just a tip, you know what I'm saying? Okay, that was gross. Stop. So the topic for this vlog or YouTube video was really just going to be how to handle change and how to cope with change. I've probably already mentioned this before, but I have moved back home to Australia, and it's probably been a couple of months since I've moved back, and quite honestly, it's been pretty whack. I kind of went from not talking to more than like 2 people a day tops, if anything, to suddenly talking to like a bunch of people at the office, to, you know, meeting all of my friends and hugging people who were not people that I was just living with. This one strand, just wash my hair, I'm sorry, it's a little puffy. Anyway, yeah, I just kind of went from you know, talking to like what, 2 people tops, or 2 or 3 people, to suddenly talking to people at the workplace, to, you know, like going and hanging out with friends, like I mentioned, and it's been really stressful. And no one tells you or prepares you for this, but that's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you the truth. I speak like I am a spiritual leader. I am not. What I'm trying to say is it is a stressful time, and no one really warns you about this. I certainly didn't anticipate it. I figured moving back, you know, it would just kind of feel like little to nothing has changed. I mean, obviously, you know, people have been in different, you know, different milestones. Blah, blah. People have passed different milestones in their life, but apart from that, I was like, what else could have changed? And the truth is, when you come from a place or a country where they have such severe and strict like pandemic restrictions or controls in place, and suddenly you come to a place like Australia where we've like literally experienced like no COVID whatsoever. We've been really lucky, and I'm not saying this to be rude or just like throw in your face or whatever, but honestly, Australia, we've done well. Like we're super, like we've got, you know, a lot of ridiculous sort of like, the media tends to hype it up when you have like 2 cases in the community, and then we immediately go into like lockdown and people start testing, but we're doing really well, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've been able to navigate this pandemic really well. I've got certain sort of controls in place where every time you go to, you know, a cafe, a restaurant, whatever, like you have to scan a QR code and check in and check out of that like venue. We have like multiple like testing sites with like really quick response times on your testing, which has been great. But the fact that, you know, we've got all these different control mechanisms, so God forbid if someone does test positive for COVID, they then do really, like they're really quick at doing contact tracing, like, okay, well this person was there at this time as well. We need to contact them and let them know that they might be identified as a close contact, and so they're meant to isolate, like test and isolate, and monitor symptoms for like, you know, a day or two, or how many ever days it's required. But it's been great, like they've got all these great control mechanisms, and that's why life over here has been kind of normal. Very normal. Like I remember when I first got here, and the first couple of, like even the first week, I was like, holy smile, like I was like, shit, like there are a lot of people with no masks, and quite honestly it was making me very anxious. I was probably one of the few people actually wearing, well no, I don't want to say that. When I say that, I mean like, you know, I was one of the few people that actually just wore it outside. Like it was just more of a protective thing for me. So whenever I was in the train, or even if I was walking, or I was at a supermarket, I would just have a mask on, and I had my portable like hand sanitizer on me, which like I still have over here, by the way. It's this little baby Yoda thing. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. How cute is he? Anyway, so I carried the little guy around, and my friends gave me a lot of shit for it, but it made me feel safe. So it's just been really jarring coming from a place where you can't even meet more than 2 or 3 people at a time because of COVID, and suddenly you come here and I go back into work and everyone's just in the office like business per usual to an extent, and just come up and they hug you, and I love my coworkers, I really do, but you know, it was definitely a shock to the system to kind of have people come up, like shake hands and be like, oh my God, like, hey, how are you? Great to finally see you, and give you a hug and everything. And I went to a cafe with like mates, and we were getting a coffee, and everyone and their mom and their dog was there. And I was like, oh my God, like no one is social distancing. There was a dude in a suit breathing down my neck, like not in a gross way, but just very close to me. And I was just so aware of it, like so hyper aware. And that's when I realized that, holy smokes, like if I'm going through something like this, there are probably people out there going through something similar, and I kind of figured it's probably worth talking about it and making a video about it so you don't feel alone. And you know, I want to let anyone else out there who's going through this know that it's okay. Like it is very normal to feel anxious when you first sort of like, you know, when you go from not having to talk to that many people, and then suddenly go back into the community and get released, and you have all this freedom and all these people coming up and talking to you, and it's totally normal. So I honestly was very, very uncomfortable. I didn't know who to talk to about this a lot. That was so overwhelmed. Like I would just sit there and just kind of cry randomly, and it was just like all of these emotions, and I didn't know how to process it. Like a couple of mates of mine invited me to go to a footy game, and I was meant to go with them. But then the day before or something, like they had 2 cases that popped up out of the blue, and I panicked a little bit, actually a lot. And I was like, look, I'm probably not comfortable coming to this game because there were 2 cases, and those 2 cases were located, and they were, you know, asked to go into lockdown, or like, you know, self-isolate. They're monitoring them, and the Australian, you know, government does a great job at this. So I get it, but it was just like the anxiety of it kicked in, and I was just like, I'm not comfortable doing it. I totally thought I would be comfortable going back out to footy game, because I love football. I love AFL, I love NRL. Big supporter, big fan. So it was kind of sad. I was like, you know, and then I had to try really hard not to beat myself up over it. Like, you know, I sort of, like I got tested because I was paranoid. Obviously it came back negative, you know, after doing so many tests and quarantine itself, like it came back negative, thank God. But I was just like, man, like was I being too dramatic? Like could I have just gone? Like was I thinking too much about it? Like what's going on? But I want to let you know that's okay. It's completely okay to feel anxious, and it's completely okay to not want to go and see people all at once. Especially if you are in my situation, you're returning back to a place like Australia, and you've been overseas in a country for a long time where COVID has hit you know, has had a larger impact, and it does take an impact on you mentally, physically, emotionally. It really does. And I can speak to it. I know a lot of people over here who can somewhat relate to it, but it's hard because people have no clue what the heck you're talking about, because Australians haven't experienced as much of it, and thank God we haven't. But yeah, like it is takes a toll on you. So what I did was, true to form, made a list of things that you can do to kind of cope with this, change, because it is a big change and you have to treat it like such. You know, even though it might just seem like you're moving countries, you're just packing up 2 bags, you know, 2.5 or whatever, like, and you're just moving back. Like, that's not all it is right now, especially with the pandemic. You're coming back to a different environment. So here are my tips, tricks, and feedback points. Number 1, this worked really well for me. I spent a lot of time in nature. I have noticed that since the pandemic, I have loved spending time outside. I've loved, even when I was in the US, like I went for a lot of walks, went for a lot of hikes. It was very calming for me, very soothing for me on like literally a cellular level. Like my body, I could literally feel like the tightness in my chest would just like loosen up, you know what I mean? So my body was just very, very relaxed in when it's outside nature. So as soon as I got back, after I sorted off a couple of life admin stuff, I just, without telling anyone, just took my car out to a national park. Like I drove out first thing Saturday morning without telling anyone a damn thing, put my phone on like do not disturb or whatever, and drove down. Like it was like a 2-hour drive. So I was really early in the morning, and I went to this beautiful national park. It's called Karangai National Park, and just spent the day there. Like I grabbed some snacks, grabbed some food on the way, grabbed some water, grabbed my camera, grabbed my phone, grabbed a phone charger in case I needed it, and just kind of went. And it was amazing. Like I went on like a 4-kilometer hike, I think, and then I just spent, I kid you not, like 2 hours by the water. Like 2 hours. It was a lot of time. I just kind of sat there like a beached whale, and I was like, it was so relaxing though. Like I just sat down by the beach and didn't talk to anyone, didn't say a darn thing, didn't have my earphones in, nothing, just had a book, and I was just listening to the sound of the waves. It was like free therapy, and I was like, why did I leave? But no, I did that. I spent the whole day out just by myself. Could have invited mates around, but I was like, nah, I need to do this for myself. So I did that. That really helped. I also I started to do things. I started to explore Sydney by myself, without other people, because I wanted to see what changed without having kind of like external, like other people around me and their opinions. What I'm trying to say is, when you're in quarantine the way I was, or where a lot of people around the world are, we're used to just being alone, and that's okay. Like you've had to do that. Like obviously now it's a little different with the vaccine rollout and stuff, but there's a point in time where you literally just had to isolate. So we, like humans, we're creatures of habit. So if you are used to being alone for a certain period of time, and you come back and suddenly you have all these people in your face, you will get overwhelmed, you will get stressed out, and you'll probably get cranky / angry, which is, I was all of those things. But I obviously try to control it. So I then, took another day or a couple of days just to kind of go downtown or go to the city by myself. I grabbed a coffee and I just hit like, CBD. I went down to Barangaroo. I went for I did the whole Bondi / Coogee. I don't want to say the walk, because I didn't really do the entire walk, and that'd be a lie to say if I did. But I just kind of walked around the area, grabbed a burger, again, sat by the beach. I honestly love the beach. So I also did some thrift shopping, which was great, thrift store shopping. I'll let that pass, because I'm not sure if you can hear that. Excuse the trash that's over there. There's a lot of stuff on my bed that we're just gonna ignore. that's why I'm sitting perfectly angled like this, so you can't really see much of what's going on behind me, hopefully. I don't know if you can, I apologize. But yeah, I spent a lot of time doing things alone because that was something I was just very comfortable with. And it's okay to say no to people. It's okay to be like, hey, I need some space. I've got some personal business to attend to. I've got some personal life admin stuff I need to do. Don't get offended, but I will schedule in time to see you later in the week or something like that. So I did that, and that was very helpful. Tip number, I don't know, 3, I think. I would personally recommend that you, okay, so in Australia, at least right now, like everyone's just hanging out. Everyone, you know, you've got large groups of people predominantly. Like you go to bars, you go to clubs, like people are dancing, people are mingling, like no one's social distancing because there's, thank goodness, no need to, and I don't want to jinx it, but you know, there's no need to. That's too overwhelming for me. So my way of integrating back into society was to mingle with people in small groups. So I met up with people like literally one-on-one. Like, you know, when you're at work and you're like manager or someone is like, oh, we're gonna have a feedback meeting, or we're gonna have a one-on-one call, a one-on-one conversation, go grab a coffee. And anyway, I did a lot of one-on-ones with my friends, and you know, we went to cafes, we went to restaurants, but I got to know them at my own pace. I didn't go out in large groups, not directly anyway. I started to get comfortable being around people again, and it was still, I'm honestly not socially awkward, at least I don't like to think I am. I know people have jokes about engineering majors, but I promise we're not all awkward. Some of us can hold a conversation, so no, but anyway, I don't consider myself to be socially awkward, at least I've never been told, but it was still I definitely felt like I was acting like a socially awkward person when I would hang out with large, like semi-large groups of people. So I was like, all right, well, forget about this. Like, I'm gonna, clearly this approach is not working for me. Let me just go hang out with people one-on-one. So that worked really well. It also allows you to kind of bond with your friends and catch up on, and kind of, you know, make up for lost time. So I was able to do that, and it was fantastic. And then, so this is not something you have to do, but I did it anyway because I was just like, you know what, I have to get over this fear. And I kind of threw myself into the deep end with this one. I am blessed enough to have a great girls group over here, like, you know, a great group of friends, like girlfriends that we get, you know, who are on the same wavelength as me, who have the same aspirations as me. We're all just like, we're all doing our own thing, but we're like very supportive of each other. And I think that's super rare, and I love that I found that, so I always keep them very close. So we had a girls' night a couple of weeks ago. Like 2 weeks ago. And we went out to dinner, obviously went to dinner, had, you know, a couple of drinks, and then decided to go clubbing. So that's something I have not done in a while, especially during COVID. There's no way in heck, right? And then we come back here and everyone's like, oh, like, let's go clubbing, let's go to this backpacker bar and let's go out dancing. And I was like, oh man, I was like, this is, it made me very uncomfortable. But I had, you know, I probably had like 2 or 3 drinks, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna go in there and do it. And by that time I was kind of buzzing, and like, you know, I had this like alcohol-fueled confidence or whatever. So I rock up to this club slash backpacker bar, whatever, and we go in there, and there were people, but obviously it was within capacity because we're still in the middle of COVID. But there were people like just all up in each other's business. They were playing like 90s music, like Backstreet Boys and everything, and I was like, oh my god, like I was like, I cannot not sing. I grew up with Backstreet Boys. So we go in there, and it was loud, people were dancing, and honestly it made me very uncomfortable, but I was a little drunk, so I didn't really feel the impact of that too much, which was great. I would not recommend this approach if you're not comfortable doing it. Again, totally understand if you are not, because I mean, I slowly worked up to this. Like if I landed on a flight back home to Australia and I'd done my quarantine, and then like that following weekend was out clubbing, like I wouldn't have lasted. Like I would have probably had a mental breakdown, gone home and gone Britney Spears and shaved my hair off. Like, there's no way. It's just, it wouldn't have happened. Mentally, my brain cannot like handle a change that big. So, but it was fun. You know, that's also an approach that worked for me. I sort of slowly made my way through the social anxiety that comes about inevitably for a lot of people. It comes about with sort of moving from a country where you've had, you know, disastrous amounts of COVID cases, and then moving back to a country where there are barely any. So that's something that worked. And then the other thing was like, so for me, I'm from Australia. I'm an Australian. So like, I have a lot of friends over here, and a lot of them wanted to just kind of hang out a lot of the time, and I love that. I love them. I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. But it was definitely exhausting going from meeting, again, like 1 or 2 people, and just kind of being used to being at home all the time or in your apartment, and then suddenly going from that to like meeting up with people pretty much every evening or every other evening. And I was like, man, like this is too much interaction for me. So I had to sort of pull aside, you know, like kind of pull aside like 2 or 3 of my friends. I'm like, hey, look, like don't take this personally, but I just need some time out to adjust to all of this. Like I can't just go back to hanging out all the time again. Like it's just not gonna happen. My priorities have shifted, so I need you to respect that. So I've also found having that conversation with people that you care about, or people that care about you, is really helpful, because they're then able to understand what you're going through, right? Like, and if you don't communicate this to them, they're never gonna know. So I personally think that's a great approach, and it worked out really well, and luckily my friends were very understanding of this fact, so it worked out. But those were my tips, and that is the end of this vlog. It is also very, very dark right now, and you can't see anything, but it is like, whew, wait, let me, no, I can't flip this around. It's just, no, my lawn needs to be mowed. I'm not gonna flip it around, it looks trash. But it is very dark right now, so you really cannot see much of my face. But I wanted to end this vlog here, and I just wanted to put this video out there in case anyone else is going through the same thing that I'm going through. And I just want to let you know that you're not alone, and that this is completely normal. It is very normal to experience social anxiety when you move back, or when you start to finally go out again. And just take it one day at a time, and use some of my tips, and let me know how it goes. I hope this was helpful. If so, please reach out to me on social media. That sounded very that sounded a little weird, but anyway, I do hope this was helpful, and until next time, stay safe and stay sane, and I will see you guys soon.